So here's how this works: is that if people submit problems, or people can, once we go through the people who actually follow instructions and submitted their problems on paper, we'll go through and open the floor to people who still have problems but didn't get a chance to write them down. And then basically we just open the floor for discussions. We want to hear best practices. We want to hear, hey, we had this problem, and here's what we did to solve it. You could say, hey, we had this problem, we tried this to solve it, and it sucked, and it didn't work at all, so don't do that. This is all about best and worst practices, or mediocre practices. We did this, and it was kind of okay. It's just this great, we've got leaders from over a dozen groups here, and we really want to put our heads together and share what we've learned. So that's what this is all about. And the awesome problem that I have in front of me right now is one that I hear a lot, and I'm totally interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. We've got some strategies on our end, but I want to hear what you guys come up with. What do you do when you're looking for new officers, or you have officers and they're kind of lame, and you're looking to get new officers or dedicated officers? No one's really stepping up to take that position. Any takers?
Half-ass it.
What?
Half-ass it.
Half-ass it. Get by, all right, that works.
Well, I've had that problem. I've actually replaced all the officers before because the ones coming in were all my friends. Because it was like 6 of us or 7 of us left from the year before in the last moment to attend the meeting, so we all became the officers. And then none of them were effective. But luckily I was good enough terms with them, I could kind of tell them that they sucked and I needed someone to actually do the jobs. I did this very diplomatically though. I mean, I say it that way because that's the truth. They were just really horrible doing the work. But I was just like, I need somebody who can do this job. If you don't think you can, I'd like to ask someone else to do it. I'd really like you still to come to the meetings, come when you're available. So you need to make sure that you put in all the right terms so they feel like you still want them in the club. You just want them to be able to finish the work. And then I asked people who I thought could do the work, who expressed interest and had energy. And those people usually did a much, much better job.
Right on.
How do you feel like when somebody maybe views that some officers don't do stuff, and I know it's from some other clubs as well, not just is it like maybe person who thinks that they just don't delegate well enough to the other people? And I think it's kind of like art of delegating and art of pursuing people to do work versus I think that they're just incapable of doing it.
Sure, so kind of look to self first to make sure that you're providing the leadership and the delegation.
So yes, so make sure that you maybe take some leadership classes or get contact and say if you're doing something right or if it's totally their incompetence.
Sure.
So I think that actually the way I became an officer was I was sort of reluctant because I'm a graduate student and very busy and this sounds like a lot of responsibility. And then Joe emailed me last minute and it was like, oh my gosh, we can't sign up as a group unless we have a treasurer right now. We have to sign the form. And I still the world's gonna end. And you know what? I was reluctant to put in that much time commitment before, and I hope I haven't done a totally failing job now. But I honestly think that sometimes expressing the direness of the situation, that you really need people to organize and get this together, and sometimes just putting that extra push on people, even if they're busy and stuff, it works.
I am going to echo that. I had a student at RIT in Rochester, New York, who was like, I have to step down, I don't have time, and we need some new leadership in the group, and if we don't find new leadership, the group is going to die in 2 weeks. Who's taking over? And then he got students to step up and take over. So if you sometimes just putting it out there that we need this, or else this thing that is of value to you is going to go away, can help that.
I think one thing that also helps is when you are finding somebody to take over for your position, not just telling them, okay, you're going to be doing this, telling them everything they're going to be doing, but also telling them that you are going to be there and that you can support them with everything. It's a lot to take in if you're saying, okay, I did all this stuff, now you're going to do it. But if you help them transition, as long as you let them know that you're going to be helpful with that, help.
Yeah, I will echo that. Has anyone had experience, when they need officers, being able to find those people to take those positions? So not so much kicking the old officers out, but getting new people into those positions. How do you go about finding those people?
So I guess one of the most useful things you can do is the opposite of what I did in that case, which is, I mean, prevent this problem before it starts. Don't wait until April to think about who the next officers are going to be. From the beginning, think of things, even if you think you can do something, yourself or do it even better than someone else could, just have people start doing things. I mean, we talked about cross-training, but don't just cross-train, delegate a bunch of stuff, so by the time April comes around, you already have a bunch of people who are doing a lot of the work, or in our case, all of it.
I've seen a strategy that has sometimes worked and sometimes failed, and that's to essentially do a reboot. That is to say, have some sort of an event that may be different than the kinds of events that the group has been doing, and make it a big deal as much as you can with what energy you got, so that you bring in a different subset of the people on campus and maybe draw in some fresh energy of people that are interested in whatever that new issue is.
Yeah, that's a good, and that's one of the strategies we use in the office, and not necessarily a reboot, but if you are looking at the group that you've got and you have no one who's interested or able, a lot of times it's the people recognize that, hey, you know what, I'm a grad student and I might not be able to do this. Is to reach out and get some fresh blood into the group. So reaching out to your mailing lists and putting things in your Facebook group and saying, hey, you know what, these opportunities are available. Come get involved, help shape your group. If there's something that you don't see happening, this is your chance to make it happen. So that can be helpful.
Also, kind of on the issue about selecting officers. When you have an election, make sure that one half of the officers doesn't date the other half. Because if they break up, it might get a little messy. And I know some club, from some other clubs, I think it's
no inter-officer dating. Awesome. Anything else on this? Let's move on. Let's throw some other things out here. David, I know you had one.
I thought you said I needed to write it down and give it to
Then
you.
I told you I was kidding.
Oh, okay. Well, I still haven't made it into a paper airplane.
Okay. I will totally come back to you. You can throw the paper airplane at me later.
Okay, fair enough. We've got 24,000 students at De Anza College. It's a community college, no dorms, and we're only allowed to put up 10 posters on the entire campus. We need to go down to the Office of College Life, get these things stamped, and then we can put them up at the very few designated spots. We also do tabling, and we tend to garner a little bit of awareness that we exist from our events. And just by having events, we get mentions in the school paper. But I'd really like to get our name out more and what we're doing and what we're about. And with 10 posters, I don't think I'm even reaching more than a few hundred of the 24,000.
Are you allowed to stand in the same spot shouting, "There's an atheist club"? One of the more effective promotional techniques we've ever done, so, hi, I'm from St. at Berkeley. So the first year we were in existence, there were like 6 of us, and somehow Debbie Goddard from CFI emailed us and was like, "Would you like to have Richard Dawkins come speak?" And we're like, "Well, okay." And I don't think she realized there were only 6 of us, and none of us had any idea how to do anything whatsoever. But for part of the promotion for the Dawkins event, we ended up painting a sheet and basically standing in the middle of the high foot traffic area shouting, "Richard Dawkins is coming. I am a complete idiot standing here with a sheet shouting things. Come look at this." And that drew a surprising amount of positive attention.
I'll add to that a little bit too. I don't know what your budget is, especially being a school kind of thing, but if you can spare like $50 or so, Facebook is amazing, and not just the way that you can spread the word for free by events and fans and so forth, but if you look into the advertising side of Facebook, the suggested sites that you see on the right-hand side.
We did that for PC Myers when he came.
Good. And what was it, like 25, 50 cents per click or something like that? And did you get a good, successful hit record from that? Or?
I think we did, but it was suggested to me that it works out better for events than for...
It definitely does work out better for events, but even just for general building up the group, it can be pretty useful. And the reason I particularly like it is because you can narrow it down to just your school or just the area, this age if you need to, and say people who identified atheism or free thinking or secularism or Dawkins or Peasy in people that they admire or the books that they've read, their interests and so forth. And there may only be 30 people at your school, and you're not wasting all the money on all the other people who the ad wouldn't apply to. But good to see that you're using that.
Yeah. I guess go swap the room here.
First, just a quick question: is that rule exclusive to your club? Like,
It's just every club.
It's every club. Okay. Honestly, I would consider trying to talk to them and asking them why, because I think that for a school of, was it 24,000?
24,000.
I feel like if you sat down with them and try and have a discussion with them, explaining the problems that you're having as a group, just stating that 10 is not enough to reach anywhere near 24,000. Maybe they would be willing to reconsider, because it sounds to me like it's one of those rules that they just at some point wrote out
Arbitrarily.
Right, they just didn't think it through. So I would just talk to them and see what they.
We do have a multi-club movement to do that right now. We have a lot of people angry about it.
Yeah?
I also feel like maybe people don't know, but there still have to be some sort of, I know the geography of the college, but there should be some sort of like a free speech zone where you can just post whatever you want. Because like for example, we have a tunnel and you can just pretty much post whatever you want there. And I feel like that some people might not even know if you have such a zone on campus.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of campuses do it, a lot of campuses don't. A lot of campuses are really strict about postings. But it's good. I mean, that might be something you should take with your group and say, hey, we should have one of these. Here we are.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've done a good job starting to use Facebook, because Facebook's so great these days at getting people involved. But another thing is don't neglect using yourself and your person as advertisement. Make buttons, make t-shirts. You don't have to make formal t-shirts. You can make my shirt and spray paint it. Or there's a bunch of different ways, and just constantly being out, trying to talk to students about it, using yourself, and just initiating conversation, being respectful and cordial like we've heard all afternoon, and still just getting the word out there verbally with posters. Because posters, they can be good, but a lot of people I've found on college campuses won't actually stop to even look at what the posters have to say a lot of times. So just think of other things besides posters there.
The other thing that can sometimes be of use if you're challenging a policy, and all of you are probably going to think I'm a horrible person. So if there's something like a very strict flyering policy, there's usually a pretty good chance that it was designed by like the associate assistant vice dean for flyering and diversity or something. And if you hit him, he may never in a million years change it. But if you accidentally email somebody who is not him but has the ability to tell him what to do, they will sometimes go, wait, why does this policy exist? Get rid of it to him. It does work a lot better if you make it as if you're accidentally emailing the wrong person. They get annoyed with you if they think you're intentionally emailing the wrong person.
Let's go over here, Jason.
One thing you might try is talking with some of the professors of relevant departments, like science departments or philosophy or something. See if you can give maybe a 1-minute plug at the beginning of one of the larger classes or something, just to let students know that you're out there and they can come look into it if they're interested.
Lyz?
You should kind of often, you should also be on the lookout for any interfaith event or panel.
I don't want on the 23rd.
That's fantastic. I know people are going to be there, so if they exist, try to come.
Also, write maybe an op-ed to newspaper.
Yeah?
So just write about, like I'm sure if you have a school newspaper, you just submit a letter to an editor and just kind of briefly mention, hey, there is a cool meeting. And it might work really good.
Awesome. So good. Steven?
Yeah, I'm not sure if your campus would allow this, but over at Berkeley, you could just put your club up on the blackboards before classes to tell people that you got meetings going on.
That's a great idea. That's another one you can make look like an accident, depending on when you oh, I'm sorry, we were meeting in here and we forgot to raise the board. Yeah, Evan.
The best, if you can build a relationship relationships with other clubs and orgs on your campus, then they will do favors for you, such as email their members about your events. So I know we do that a lot between the different groups on my campus. They send me emails all the time. The campus pastors do it actually. You know, hey, we've got this speaker coming. You want to send it to the SSA, and vice versa. I tell them about when we go to religious visits. So if you can get good relationships with other clubs and orgs, they also have huge email lists like you do.
Awesome. Last one on this one.
I guess second question, is there like a rule book or something where they make all these points, or did you just go to them and ask if you can do it? Like how did you come to the knowledge that they don't allow?
We have an inter-club council, so there's one representative of every club at this thing every Wednesday. So every club who comes in goes through the same sort of process of getting an orientation packet and learning all of this stuff. And anytime that you're trying to do anything new, you have to go through this huge bureaucracy. So everybody gets the same spiel about for any posting you're doing. It's 10 of them, you have to get them stamped, and you have to keep them to the designated spots. There's some bulletin boards, and that's where you put postings. So, yeah.
Right on.
Actually,
Who else has
if
problems?
I just wanted to final comment there. Another thing you could probably do is just hand out handbills. You could make quarter-page flyers for things and send people out en masse to hand them to people rather than post them anyplace. Problematic.
Well, thank you all. I've got a lot of notes now, so I will need to try to put many of these into effect.
Who else has problems?
Kind of going back to what Greg was talking about.
You're coming in.
We don't we don't have an incredibly easy time recruiting people, and in particular, we don't have an incredibly easy time recruiting diverse people. I could include women and minorities. It also includes undergraduates. So, what are some strategies for trying to recruit and specific groups of people that are not represented in your group?
Yeah, good. That's actually the problem I was going to throw out here, because Greta brought up a great point. It's come up before, and I want to see what you guys are doing about it. So what's worked? What hasn't worked?
Well, the obvious one has already come up. The first quarter that we existed, half of the officers were female, half were male. It's just kind of how it played out. Having events that are not stereotypically filled with testosterone works too. This is a great draw. Having this be one of your club activities is a big deal. It's a clear signal that you are not just oversaturated with nonsense about stereotypes about what manliness is and what femininity is. It seems to work out rather nicely.
Yeah. I mean, for the last group of people who just came in, you're right at the beginning, we're addressing a question of actually what Greta brought up in her talk, diversity. How do we get it? Does your group have it, and how have you gotten there, and what can you share with others to help get our movement more diverse? Nick?
I always try to put females in the officer position. I always ask them to immediately over everyone else, which is kind of maybe unfair, I suppose, maybe backwards way. And also, we're trying to start a campaign to raise funds for what is it that it's not the Boy Scout group, but it's for
Scouting for All.
Scouting for All, yeah. So we're actually gonna, even though we don't think we're gonna make any money, we're gonna have a sign, and every time we table, we're gonna have it available to show that we support, the gay community and gay rights and those type of things. We just want to make it very visible. And the other thing to do is that if you can get someone to write for the student paper, you can write from these issues. I've done it, where I was an atheist columnist, and I wrote on these same issues all the time to make it, femininity, feminine rights, gay rights, gay marriage. I wrote all those things. Get out the idea that atheists are open to these things.
Well, our group Shift has been fortunate enough not really to have any issues with diversity. I mean, half of our officers were just happened to be female, and we didn't target that, or we have quite a diverse range of ethnic backgrounds. So, but one thing I would recommend, perhaps, in trying to improve diversity for a group would be to approach other groups on campus that cater specifically to minorities, and go to these groups and say, hey, we know there are atheists in your group just as there would be in any other group, and come on, check us out if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Liz, you have your hand up first.
I actually have a question for everyone. What about becoming involved with, not necessarily political candidates, but campaigns that are of interest to the students in the community? Having worked on the Obama campaign in Colorado Springs, I was absolutely, it was a lovely experience because I met people who I would have never met in any other situation. If our paths would not never have crossed. And that, I think, working on a joint effort where you are working with people not only of diverse backgrounds in terms of race and gender, but also in terms of working with religious groups, because you guys have talked about that, the importance of that. And having a common cause that you guys can start on ground zero with, and then start understanding each other's differences. I mean, has anybody here, I know there was one group that did Habitat for Humanity, and has anybody else done any kind of program like that? And if they have, has it worked?
I've seen groups that have contributed to food bank efforts. When I was in San Diego, we had a group that went and joined with clinic defense, pro-choice clinic defense efforts. And it built good relationships, but I didn't actually see it turn into a way to diversify the membership of our group.
Our group tried to volunteer for a food bank, and they called in last minute and told us that it had been canceled, and a couple of our members showed up, and they didn't want us because we were in this group. And so, anyway, we ended up not going out trying to create controversy about it, but I saw that person later on, months later, and said, so are you guys religiously based or anything like that? And he said, no, but we are, but we accept anybody. And anyway, it ended up being a misunderstanding, and the person had been fired who denied us. So we have started volunteering with them, but it's not like a really strong relationship or anything like that.
I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of political groups still are very about atheism and secularism. I feel like they might support it, but they don't want to get involved. And my previous experience, I've been an officer for a Democrat club, and when I was talking about just how secular club and just secular cause, and just how about the Democrats should maybe try to do maybe some sort of a joint event, I've been literally pulled aside and told to shut up about it. That they don't want to deal with that. Some of the talk is offensive, and they just So I do feel like that, and also another comment about political. You also have to agree that not everybody in your secular club is liberal, and that not in your secular club might support the same issues. Because I did know atheists who are anti-abortion, I know atheists who voted yes on 8, and I knew atheists who voted for McCain, so it's like, you still have to be kind of sensitive about certain things, that you shouldn't just put a label saying, oh, we are secular, we are humanists, we are all liberal.
Yeah. There's actually another one that goes along with that, is that we do have speakers and we have project grant funds. We actually can't give them to you if you're doing a political event with them because we're in C3, and we're not allowed to endorse political candidates. So, I mean, by all means, we encourage your groups to be politically active and go out and support secular issues. And if you as a group want to go support a candidate, I'm not actually supposed to talk about this, but we have a group leader in South Carolina who's running for state representative, and you know, I would love to put it all over the place. You know, we have a student who's running for office. This is awesome, and I can't. But his group can totally go out and support him. They just can't ask us for help. Yeah, sometimes you run into these roadblocks. Joel, you look extremely enthusiastic.
Oh yeah, it's been a long day. Now I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about politics, and something that just came up on my Facebook feed. Yes, Facebook's awesome today. Can you help groups that are trying to fight a specific piece of legislature, say amendments going through certain state elections?
It's kind of complicated. What probably would end up happening is that I would work with Sean and Sasha at the Secular Coalition and have them talk to you about it.
Okay.
But it really, I'm not a legal expert, and I actually have someone that I'm in touch with when something like this does come up, and I go, you know, hey Rob, can I do this?
Okay, because yeah, something just
Let's keep it. We'll talk about it today.
Yeah.
It
Just to give you a resource on that, you might have somebody from your group be a liaison to any of the other local chapters of Freedom from Religion Foundation or Americans United or Atheists United, who are constant watchdogs for those kinds of pieces of legislation. And if you go to their meetings, you know, once a month, or at least get on their mailing list, then you'll have that information fed to you at a local level. They don't report to you just the national stuff. If something is happening at their chapter in their county, in your city or whatever, or the high school down the street, that's how you find out about that stuff, just the local chapters of those organizations.
Cool, thank you.
I'm going to put this actually back on the topic because I really want to hear more about this. Reaching out to diversify your group. And Greta did make a really good point, is that the student group is, you are better than the rest of the free thought movement at getting women involved. We're way better at it. But we do really still lag behind in some of the other minority categories, the LGBT populations, African Americans, Hispanics, a lot of these minorities, and I would love to hear more about it because it's a problem that I see as well, and we don't know how to address it. So we're still working on it. So right up here.
Yeah, we actually have on our campus the Center for Equality and Justice, and what we've been doing recently, we have a lot of members in our group who are active in GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, and some other groups on campus, and we've in recent weeks been talking about a steering committee for all the social justice kind of things going on. Like we were planning counter protests at Planned Parenthood and just things like that. So you can create kind of a coalition of different groups to take on issues.
On that note, we actually we applied to be a multicultural club on our campus, and it was far too easy actually. But I mean, we're a multicultural club, and so we for any multicultural event, we're always there. And for any multicultural marketing, our name's now on it. Secular Student Alliance is up there with Black Student Union, Hillel, GSA. So you know, we are a minority. So you probably have that ability if you haven't looked into it yet.
How long ago did you get involved in that?
Just this year. And
Have you seen a change in the demographics of your group since then?
I wouldn't accredit it to that.
Okay.
I would accredit our accessibility to different groups, and our networking ability has strengthened because of that. We suddenly have something we connect with GSA, GSU, you know, Latin American Student Organization on our campus. Suddenly we're all multicultural clubs, and there is a camaraderie among most of the multicultural clubs on our campus anyways. And so in that essence, you're all fighting for a greater good or to be noticed as well. But directly for our club, we still face the challenges of getting out of the white male mentality.
Sure.
It seems to me like there's a common thread running through a number of these, and it's a matter of making common cause. Because many of the things, like writing a letter to the editor about some racial issue or gender issue, things like having a coalition, it's a matter of showing that we want to help. We are a group that is facing a huge amount of nonsense about who we are and what we are, so we understand these other groups that have faced it a lot worse. Just being able to express that, I think, being able to be there and get involved and work with feminist or sexuality issues or racial issues, it's all one big human rights campaign. And the sooner that we manage to relate that to everyone, to get that across, the quicker we can just go right through the issue as a whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did I see another hand coming up this way? Very slightly. Lucy, I have a real quick question for you. Sure. Because you have a huge group. What does your demographic breakdown look like?
Like I said, I think I said this before, but probably 60-40, if not 50, if not that, 50-50 male and female.
Sure.
And we also, keeping in mind that UO is really not a diverse campus, racially, ethnically, in any means of the term, we do have a pretty good, pretty diverse membership. I'd like to make it more so, but it's pretty good, especially for the demographics of the campus as a whole.
And then I saw a hand over here that I just saw.
For, I guess, networking with the LGBT community, one thing that our LGBT center has is a training program called Safety Zone Training, and it's pretty much to create a peer network for, safe place when people are afraid and such. But they have safety zone training, and clubs can ask for someone to come in and do this. So by showing that you're interested in, just participating in events or just things like that.
Actually raises a really interesting question. Your campus has I guess my undergrad university had this international thing, where pretty much everyone who wasn't from the United States would set up a table in the cultural center, and you go around and eat Indian food and watch things that don't generally happen in America in general public. And I never went to them. I'll be really honest. It was not something that fell into my regular routine. But I'm wondering if anyone's groups have made a point to go to those as a group. Has anyone reached out in that way? Am I crazy? Does that seem like something your groups would think of or be interested in?
I mean, just because we became we have a multicultural department on campus, and they have clubs that they get funding to, and they also work with the international students on campus. And so since we're a small campus, we were successful in that. And so the multicultural events during orientation anyways are for all the international students generally. And so we had a table there. And it's funny because Europeans are a lot more atheist than the Americans. But while they might not necessarily be a part of your club, they see no reason for it because they don't need one back home. But it definitely was a different crowd. It was a new face that we were marketing for, rather than the normal involvement fairs or whatever might be going on campus. We definitely had, we entered a new zone of marketing. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, you're looking like I'm crazy.
The only thing that we have that goes on like that at our campus is there's sort of club day, which is everybody.
And you have to go set up your own table.
Right, and so I always make a point of going around to every single other table while other people are at the table, and then I go back and let them wander around, sort of thing. But we haven't really, as a college, I guess, made a point of being able to do that. And I think maybe we should be the ones initiating.
It could be an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And let me know how that goes. Yeah, let's go now.
The only problem I see with all this kind of collaboration with other groups, gay straight alliance groups or other, is that they might not. It's kind of back to the joke that was told earlier about meeting campaign buying a lottery ticket.
Right.
That some of them might not view as important at all. I feel like it should be kind of like if we help one group, there should also be helping you too later on. But I feel like again from my previous experience with the Democrat Club, we did a lot of help for queer community and Prop 8 and I got the name about some other act. But thing is, when we needed help, like the Democrat Club needed help,
They weren't willing to use.
yeah, the club is the other one. They just kind of did not do anything, so it's not helpful. And I feel like it could be another issue that both groups have to have a mutual understanding. And if one group thinks they're way more important than the other, and it's the right of everyone to help them, but they will not bother to help you, that's
Right, and yeah, it's time to find a new group.
Well, that's just understandable, though. I mean, if we are willing to help with a cause like Prop 8, that just makes sense, because this is something that we're passionate about. If we're asking another group to help us in return, it better be on something that we're equally passionate about. And I think that might be one of the issues in having minorities in secular clubs in general, because they've got bigger fish to fry a lot of the time. It's only really worth it for them if we're addressing their issues specifically.
I would also address that. I think that and I see your point that you don't want to just be a doormat and be putting yourself out but I think that to some extent we need to be willing to make the first step, and not just the first step, but the second step and the third step. It's one of the ways, we're overcoming a lot of bigotry about us, a lot of prejudice, and a lot of people see us as, amoral and self-centered and et cetera. And I think it's going to take a few gestures. You can't just try once and say, well, they didn't want us, so therefore we're going to give up. I think that we need to make it a number of gestures before people say, we'll get, yes, they're sincere, they're really interested in our issues, and we have to be careful about being too obvious about quid pro quo. It's like if we say, well, I'll wash your back if you wash mine, then that makes us not seem like we sincerely care. And I think that we need to some extent to be willing to help out on other social justice issues, not just because it helps us, but because it's the right thing to do. And then sort of the Machiavellian flip side of that is if we do that enough, then people will recognize us and et cetera. But I think to some extent we need to, a lot of marginalized groups sort of have this decades or centuries old history of feeling like people only want to help us when they get something out of it too. And so they're naturally going to be mistrustful, especially if it's, for instance, a largely white group or a largely male group. There's going to be some natural suspicion, and I think we need to be willing to kind of suck it up and to do the right thing anyway. And, if we get kicked in the teeth 10 times, then, fine, we can go try to help somebody else. But, I think that we need to recognize that, we're working with centuries of mistrust and hostility that's pretty well founded, and that we need to be willing to sort of to get over ourselves.
Here.
A similar problem I've had is I'll get the word out on Facebook groups or otherwise, and atheists on my campus who are atheists like myself have gotten back to me and said, why would you care about this? They stand and say that they have the same views as I do, but at the same time they say, why even care enough to start a group? Like, this doesn't matter. Like, yes, we're atheists, but we don't care. Like, why start a group? What's the point? And I try to convey to them, I don't know if this is the best act to use or the best response to use, but what I said to them was there are a lot of things we don't believe but that aren't worth caring about, but they're not worth caring about because there are not other people trying to push those beliefs that we don't have through legislation and that affect the lives of society as a whole. And I was wondering if there's a way you can convey that atheism is important because it's a minority, and try to convince even other non-believers that it's more important than they think.
Right. I think there's definitely something that Nick seems to have a pretty good response to.
I tried to take that on by writing some paper. And that was it was a paper that was printed every day, though. It had 15,000 printed every day, so it was a big paper. Some campuses don't have this, papers. But when I started doing that, I started writing from an ethical viewpoint as an atheist, right? Atheists had to be in the, the beginning line of like what your name is, what I thought. And then my actual first name was Sexy. Atheists are sexy. And I changed it later. It was kind of different. But I tacked
You didn't
moral.
want it to be uniformly true?
Just think of a personal experience.
But I had Christians come up to me all the time and be like, what is your morality based on? How could you believe this? And I was always astounded. I was just like, how do you not understand that we have morality? And it would always create a conversation. And then you start to see that you normalize the viewpoint that atheists have morality, that people who don't have Christian beliefs have ethical standards and these types of things. I think if we could take over the papers and like all become editors the way everyone else does, our voice would be everywhere. I always try to encourage people to write in and become a columnist yourself if you can. And that's what Greta's doing. We do more stuff like that out there.
This is going to be our last comment here because we're getting close to time. But go on.
So with regard to the diversity issue, the comment about the GLBT safe zone training made me wonder, maybe this is a crazy idea, do we want to have atheist safe zone training, essentially go to various groups and try to train them about how to make their groups welcome atheists better and thereby build communication channels?
We're actually, the Secular Signal Lights right now is working on a set of resources for high school students, an area in which we find we drastically underperform. And one of the things that we've actually looked at is creating basically like a safe zone equivalent, like you see signs on your faculty office doors that say safe zone in a triangle. Of creating something like that, a program like that for non-believers, so like an atheist safe haven sort of thing. And that's a really, really interesting tie-in project that our groups could undertake. Is your campus or is your, I don't know, like golf club or whatever, atheist friendly? And offer to say, like, have awareness programs. I think that's a really, really interesting idea that could be worth, definitely worth pursuing. I'm going to talk to you about that some more. We are going to wrap this up. The comment rule this is going to be our really last one because we have to wrap up and move on.
I'm sorry to have come late, but I really would like atheists to change the conversation and stop using the words of religionists like morality and ethics. We're at a university, and if you study philosophy or go to any class or the discussion, you ask people, well, what is morality? What is your morality? And nobody knows. Well, what are your values? Everybody has values, but you can't describe what they are. In every single context, we all have different feelings about things, and we all act differently in different times, ages of our lives, and our maturity. So the same with ethics. Nobody defines what ethics is, and nobody defines what morality is. If you look in the dictionary, morality usually refers to your sexuality, and ethics usually refers to your business practices. but if you're a good businessman, you cut corners, and you really clever ethics, or creative ethics, or morality. And so we're using the terms of religionists as if. So what morality does religion teach you? To be dumb and not ask questions. Isn't that the morality? Be subservient and don't question. That's the morality and ethics of religion. Okay.
I think most people would disagree that morality and ethics are terms that apply exclusively to exclusively religious terminology. I think.
So what is your morality?
I'm going to call this a discussion that is started and we can finish it later. Let's go.
Well, I'm glad I had the